All right, so we're diving headfirst into this the study in Scarlet thing you sent over.
Yeah.
I gotta say, even just from these first little bits and pieces, you can really see something special starting to form between Watson and Holmes. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
what even brings these two guys together in the first place? What are their first impressions of each other? That's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive today.
Right.
By the time we're done, you'll have a way deeper understanding of how this legendary duo got their start.
Definitely.
It's so much more than just what happened. It's those little subtle details that make their first connection so fascinating. We're going to zero in on those early interactions and how they ended up living together based on these excerpts.
Sounds good.
One thing that jumps out right away is how totally random their meeting seems.
Yeah.
It's really all because Watson needs a cheap place to stay.
She's just back in London in 1878 after being a doctor in the army.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy time, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
He went through a lot, wounded in Afghanistan, a Giselle bullet right in the shoulder.
Oh, wow.
Then he got hit with enteric fever, too.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, yeah, physically he's not doing great. Plus, his finances are pretty much drained.
Right.
It's this desperate need for an affordable place to live that kicks off the whole story.
Exactly. So we have Dr. Watson, who's been through the ringer, both physically and financially.
Right.
And all he wants is a basic necessity, a roof over his head that he can actually afford.
Yeah.
During this search, he bumps into Stamford, an old work buddy from his Bart's days.
Uh-huh.
This little chance encounter is super important because Stamford's the one who first mentions sharing a place.
Oh, for sure.
Now, the way Stamford describes Holmes at first is really something. He doesn't just say, oh, I know a guy looking for a roommate, you know?
Right.
There's this hesitation, almost like a warning. He calls Holmes rather a dangerous man to have as a housemate.
Interesting.
That instantly gets your attention. What kind of dangerous are we talking about?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like physical danger. More like Holmes has a very particular personality, and he's deeply into some very specific studies that Stamford doesn't even understand.
It's true. Stamford even warns Watson that Holmes might not be the easiest person to live with long term.
Right, because he's so focused on whatever he's working on at that moment.
Exactly. Not exactly a glowing recommendation, is it?
Not at all. It's almost like Stamford's giving him an option, but at the same time he's like, be careful.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But Watson's in a tough spot. He needs that affordable housing. So they end up having their first meeting in the most unusual place, a chemical laboratory at a teaching hospital.
Can you imagine?
Talk about a first impression.
Yeah, for a potential roommate.
He's not meeting people in a nice living room or at a club. He's in his lab surrounded by experiments.
Oh, absolutely.
And the very first thing Watson sees is Holmes doing this pretty strange experiment with bloodstains. Not your average icebreaker.
Definitely not. But it really tells you a lot about Holmes right off the bat.
Oh.
He's completely absorbed in it, almost ecstatic about this scientific breakthrough.
Oh.
Totally oblivious to how weird it might seem to someone new.
Yeah.
He keeps going on about how incredibly useful it'll be for legal medicine. Invaluable, perfectly invaluable. It shows how intensely focused he is on the practical uses of his very specialized knowledge.
And Watson's reaction is super important, too. He's immediately struck by how Holmes looks, that skinny build, the sharp eyes, the hawk-like nose.
Right.
And the pure concentration coming off of him is intense.
Oh, totally. Watson even describes his restless hands and that piercing gaze.
Yeah. It paints this picture of someone who's always watching, always analyzing.
Always thinking.
But then comes this bombshell. Holmes has never even heard of the Copernican theory.
Oh, wow.
The fact that the Earth goes around the sun is news to him.
Yeah.
Watson is understandably floored.
Can you blame him?
It really shows how incredibly selective Holmes's interests are. He's clearly a brilliant guy, but his knowledge is hyper-focused. Anything outside that laser focus, he just tunes out.
Like his mind's a giant filter.
Exactly.
Only letting in what he needs.
And this seemingly bizarre gap in his knowledge isn't just a funny quirk. It's a huge clue about how his mind works.
Definitely.
He prioritizes information that he can directly use for his unique interests.
Like a mental toolbox.
Exactly. It tells you that this is someone whose genius operates on a whole other level.
Absolutely. And it's in this setting of unusual science and shocking gaps in basic knowledge that the idea of sharing rooms comes up. Stamford may be seeing a way to solve both Watson's housing problem and Holmes's need to split the bills.
Yeah.
Suggests 221B Baker Street.
Right, with Mrs. Hudson as their landlady.
Exactly.
It's a very practical idea.
Oh, yeah.
Reasonable rent is a big deal for Watson, and they even talk about needing to be flexible with each other's habits right from the start. So there's this unspoken understanding that this won't be your typical roommate situation.
Right.
Watson, of course, has some doubts.
Really?
He's just met this super strange guy who loves bloodstains and doesn't know basic astronomy. He's got questions about Holmes's lifestyle, and Stanford's answers are, well...
Vague.
to put it mildly.
He basically says, oh, you'll get used to his little quirks. Not exactly reassuring.
No, not at all. But again, Watson's kind of desperate. So even with the warning, Stanford's suggestion has got to be pretty tempting.
It's his best option, really.
Once they move into Baker Street, Watson starts to notice even more about Holmes's personality and how he lives.
Oh, yeah. This is where we really get to see what it's like to actually live with this extraordinary guy.
And what a ride it is. Watson observes these crazy mood swings.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes Holmes is withdrawn and brooding, lost in thought. Other times he's like a burst of energy, super animated.
It's true.
His reading habits are all over the place, too. Anatomy, chemistry, sensational crime reports, philosophy, you name it.
Wow.
It seems completely random, but it's obviously all feeding into his unique way of seeing the world. You have this stark contrast. Watson is looking for stability after all the chaos he's been through.
Yeah.
And Holmes is this creature of pure, unpredictable focus.
But sometimes that friction is where amazing things happen.
Right.
Their opposite needs and perspectives could actually work together in ways they never expected.
And then there's the violin playing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a hobby for him. He says it actually helps him think. That quote about music being a treat for the gods, even when played badly, is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But it shows how unconventional he is about everything.
Right.
And we can't forget his crazy late hours and irregular schedule.
Oh, no.
Watson's trying to get some normalcy back in his life.
Yeah.
And he moves in with a guy whose routine is completely dictated by whatever intellectual rabbit hole he's down at that moment.
Yeah.
It really highlights how different these two men are.
Totally.
Watson is the grounded, practical doctor with a military background, used to order and routine, and Holmes is this brilliant but totally eccentric guy, driven by these intense, almost obsessive intellectual pursuits.
Yeah, you can almost feel the potential for both conflict and, surprisingly, collaboration brewing right from the start.
Right. How could these two completely different people possibly live together, let alone become the most famous crime-solving duo in literature?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even with all the quirks, Watson is definitely intrigued by Holmes. He's clearly confused, maybe even a little put off by some of Holmes's weirdness. But there's also this underlying fascination with his intellect and his unique perspective.
It's like he can't help but be drawn in.
Yeah, it's that initial spark of curiosity combined with Watson's practical needs that sets the stage for everything that comes after.
So wrapping up this first look at their early encounters, a few things really stand out. We have this almost accidental meeting that happens because Watson needs a place to live and a friend.
Right.
Stanford is this hesitant middleman who brings them together. Then we're immediately introduced to Holmes's super unique and, let's be honest, kind of strange personality.
Really?
From his bloodstain obsession to not knowing basic astronomy.
Right, right.
And this all leads to them sharing this very unconventional living space at 221B Baker Street.
It's definitely not your average roommate situation.
No kidding.
No,
But you can already see this unusual connection forming almost against the odds.
it's true.
Stanford isn't exactly singing Holmes's praises, but he's still the one who brings these two very different worlds together.
And that detail about Holmes being totally uninterested in the Copernican theory,
Yeah.
it really makes you think, especially when you contrast it with his obsession with forensic science.
It's wild.
It makes you wonder, what else does he consider irrelevant? And what does that tell us about what he cares about and maybe even what he'll end up doing for a living?
Yeah, it's like a little preview.
Exactly. That early fascination with bloodstains isn't just a random thing. It's a clear sign of where his talents will take him. This is the foundation for his future as a famous detective.
Absolutely. And it brings us to this final thought for you to ponder. Given these first kind of bizarre encounters and the obvious, almost comical differences between them,
Yeah.
what could possibly have created such a strong and iconic partnership? What hidden needs or maybe even shared values buried deep down might have brought these two seemingly opposite individuals together?
Wow.
It really gets you thinking about the unexpected ways human connections happen and how even the most different people can find common ground and a shared purpose.
That's so true.
It's amazing to think about.
It really is.
And that's where we'll leave it for today.
Sounds good.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep those questions coming. And remember,
Quiet.
the truth is out there.
Oh.